for the graph, if you're looking for domain, you're looking from the smallest x to the biggest x values. So when you have a solid point, that means, is it out of the screen now? If you have a solid point, that means brackets, right? So that's why this is starting with brackets. And on over here, hopefully you have that with you is an open circle. That's why it's the parenthesis for smallest x to the biggest x value. Is it okay? For domain and range. This screen is not working well. And then for the range is the y value. So we're looking at the lowest point of the graph to the highest point of the graph, okay? So the lowest point here is kind of like a -5 because it's a solid line, so it's brackets. And the highest point is like over here, so y is equal to 6, also a solid line, so it's brackets. Is it kind of okay?
Yes.
All right. So the next one, I think I can move it here maybe. Can you see it? Okay. Kind of. The domain, like for this number 2 and 3, you need to know the restriction. So the restriction for square root is we cannot have any negative number under square root. So because of that, whatever under the square root, we're going to set it greater than or equal to 0 and then solve for x. If x is greater than or equal to 5, then it means like the domain is like any number including 5 to infinity, like that. Okay, and then the next one, number 3, has a fraction. So I need to know that the denominator part cannot equal to 0. So I said the denominator cannot equal to 0. This is the difference of 2 squared. So I solve it. It turned out x cannot equal to 4 or -4 because if I put those numbers back in here, it will make the denominator equal to 0. So the domain would be starting from -infinity to -4, skip -4, back to 4, skip 4 to infinity, like that. So the first 3 questions is about domain and range. Are we okay?
Yes.
Okay, and sometimes they may ask you to find the max relative or local maximum and minimum point. So those would be like here would be the relative maximum point. So you found the x and y value, and this point would be the relative minimum point, and you found the x and y values. Okay, number 4 asks you to they give you a function, and they ask you to plug in 4 as x, a as x, or when f of x, which is y, equal to 1. So that's all we did. We used the function they gave us. We plug in 4 for x and found the values. We plug in a for x and see what it is. And the last one is they want f of x equal to 1. So this is the function. So I replace f of x part equal to 1 and solve this. And because this is quadratic, so I need to set it equal to 0. After I set it equal to 0, I can factor it. So that's all that happened here. So any question on that one? Number 4. Like,
not for me, no.
Okay, so far all we're talking about is 10.1, and 10.1 is really important. So you're going to see quite a few questions from 10.1, okay? Number 5, also from 10.1, they give you functions, and they want you to find a few things, including f of x plus h, f of x plus h minus the f of x, and then f of x plus h minus the function divided by h. So that's all we did. Like, instead of x, you plug in x plus h on the functions to figure out what that is. So once you find a, you have the first part of b, right? So you move this guy here, subtracting, they want you to subtract the function. So put a parenthesis, put the function here, do combine like terms to find out what that is. And once you have b, c is using what you get from b, put it on top, divided by h, so you reduce, and that's all you need to do. So, but make sure you do this step slowly and carefully, because if you did it wrong on the first step, it's going to affect the rest of it. So you have to be extra careful, okay? Any questions so far? No questions? Okay, I think the next question is moving on to 10.2. So 10.2 is quadratic function, meaning they started with x squared, right? And I say if a is positive, positive people is happy, so you have a smiley face parabola like that. So it means it's going to be open up. That come with a minimum point. If you have a is negative, the leading coefficient is negative, it means like you have a negative people is set, right? So you have a set base parabola, so it's open down along with you will have a maximum point, right? So depending on if they give you the general form or the standard form, you will find the vertex basing on that. So we probably will include that this part for the formula for you to work on the exam. And then the axis symmetry is the vertical line going through the vertex. Because it's vertical line, it has to be x equal to some number, and it goes through the vertex, so it's x equal to whatever the vertex x value is. And if you have the standard form, this is kind of related to the transformations. This means in the parenthesis, so if you have a negative in front, it means the whole thing, the y value would be negative. So you flip the graph. First of all, it's reflecting. If you have some number inside with x inside the parenthesis, then you solve for x. That's your new x value for the vertex. And the outside part, if you cover all that, it means y equal to k. So the k part is your y value for the new vertex. So this is considered as the standard form. And Julio asked me about the completing the square. So if you are given general form and you want it to look like a standard form, you have to complete the square. This is a complicated process. So like, and this semester we really lost some time. So I didn't go through that. So anytime if you have this, you can always use negative b over 2a and this to find the vertex. So we skipped that part. But if you really want to know, I can give you some example. So this is your vertex. Also, it could be your maximum or minimum point with the vertex. And the axis of symmetry is the vertical line going through the vertex. So it's going to be x equal to h. So this is basing on that. And number 6 asks you a lot of questions. Number 6 give you a quadratic function. They ask you to find the vertex, so you put in that negative b over 2a, find the x values, and then plug in the x value back to the function to find the y value for the vertex. So once you pick up these two numbers, that's your vertex number. And then they ask you for the axis of symmetry, which is x equal to whatever that number is in your vertex x values, right? And then they will ask you to find x and y intercept. So again, like we learned it from the first exam, x intercept, you set y equal to 0. And y-intercept, you set x equal to 0. So when you solve this, you will need to factor, which is also using your skills from the first exam. For the y, you set x equal to 0, you just plug in 0 here, and then you find the y value. So using all these points, you're going to try to form a parabola, because this is a quadratic x to the second power with a is negative, so it's a set base parabola open down. And then we found the points including x-intercept is -7, x-intercept is -1, and then my vertex was -4 and 18, right? And then I found my y-intercept was -14. So using all these points, I'm going to form an open down parabola with the graph. So this question is a little bit intense, so I may break it into more than one question. Like maybe one question just asks you for the vertex, and then one question asks you for the x and y-intercept and graph or something. So, but you will have something like this on the test, because this is the main part of 10.2. Question on this. So probably we will give you the formula to find vertex. Questions?
Nope.
No, I'm good.
Good. Okay. All right. So for number 7 is about polynomial. So this one, I kind of want you to know some of it, but if you don't, you can also use your graphing calculator to graph it if you want to. Do you know how to input to a graphing calculator for that?
That was
Yeah.
one of the questions that I had. When I
Uh-huh.
tried to enter it into the graphing calculator,
Mm-hmm.
the graph didn't appear.
Okay, so that we can try. So for example, the first one, like, because they only ask you about the shape of the graph, so actually I only need to know this. So this is x cubed, which is an odd leading power, so it means one side up, one side down to me. And then a is positive, so it means this side up, this side down. And because it's cube, it's the highest power, so the maximum turn is 1 less than that, so it's 2. That's why it looks like an S-curve like this. So if I know all that, I don't need the graphing calculator. But if I put it in, I would have x raised to the 3rd power minus 14 x squared. Oh, sorry. Like, that's my problem. Like, everything is like in the exponents now. So I shouldn't do that. Q, and I need to move the arrow down here. Minus 14 x squared plus 14x plus a 6 or something like that. Okay, so I will hit enter and graph, and if I don't see anything, it means my window has problem. So the easiest way to me is like maybe zoom. Do they have a zoom fit? Zoom in, zoom out. Yeah, they have a zoom fit that may work, or you can do zoom out, enter it. So it doesn't look that good. So let me do zoom out. See what happens. So zoom out probably better. So after you graph, like you hit the zoom button and zoom out. Sorry, zoom button and zoom out. Otherwise, the window may not be where the graph need to be. Does it make sense? So that's why my sketch is like that. Are we okay?
Yes.
Okay, the next one is like to the 4th power, which is an even power. Leading power is either going to be both side up or both side down. Depending on the a value, a is negative, means both side down the set base, right? And because the leading power is 4, so it means the maximum turn would be 1 less than that, which is 3. So that's why both side down with 3 turn, I form like an M, right? So let's try to graph it here. So if I clear that, I do negative 5 x to the 4th power, move the arrow key, plus 2 x to the 3rd power, move the arrow key, minus 6x plus 1, hit enter, graph. This time I see something. Not that great, but like, let me see if I can zoom out. I don't know if I can. It may need to zoom in actually. Zoom. It's thinking. So you see like this, because like it has the end behavior correct, but it doesn't have very obvious turn like this, right? Because they say maximum turn. So maximum can be 3, but it could be less than that. But the end behavior would be like both side down. So your calculator probably will tell you better than like what you think is supposed to be, but that's how it works. So it looked like it could be more like just a U-shaped parabola, because the turn may be double. They have a double answer somewhere. Is it okay? So like if I have it, it probably will be on my lab, and then you're going to match the graph with whatever function they give you, and you can use your graphing calculator to check. Okay? All right, number 8. Number 8 is something we have done before. It's just like if it's compounding several times a year, like quarterly, monthly, semi-annually, then you use this formula. If you have compounded continuously, you use PERC, right? And then you plug in all of this information and find the answer. So we have another exam kind of have similar questions. Hopefully you still remember. Just make sure your percentage need to convert to decimal points. Are we okay with that? Questions? Are you guys still there?
Yes.
Okay, I cannot see today. It's really weird. Okay, so the next question is changing from exponential to log and log to exponential. So this is the thing I want you to remember, the form. So whatever they gave you, you need to change to the other form. So you have to practice a little bit. They're not super difficult, but you do have to practice. Number 10 is they give you the exponential form. They want it to convert to log form. So just move it around. Number 11, you need to use this property, log base ax equal to x. So you can cancel that when the base match this number. So this one is 16. So if I want to match the base 2 here, it would be 2 to some power, which is to the 4th power. After I cancel it, that equal to 4. Okay, number 12 and 13, if you take the business calculus, you may need these skills. They want you to condense the log to one single term. So the basic rule is if you see a number in front, it will turn into the power. Turn into the power. If it's a fraction, it means like it's some kind of roots. And also you have addition will turn into multiplication. Subtraction will turn into division. So they just condense it to one single terms. So number 12 and 13 is that. Number 14, 15, and 16 is solving exponential functions. So solving exponential functions, you need to get both sides with the same base. Just one term on each side, then you can cancel the base. So the first one, we change both sides with base 2, cancel the base, that's your answer. Number 15, I get both sides with base 2 again. This one is 1 over. 1 over mean you're going to turn that into a negative exponent. Cancel the base. Number 16, I'm going to change both sides with base 3 again. So once you have base 3 on both sides, you can cancel the base and just solve for x. So that's 14, 15, and 16. Question for that? Are you guys still okay?
Yeah. No
Okay.
question.
All right. Like stop me anytime if you have a question, okay? Number 17. 17 is like the compound interest questions, but this time we're solving for the interest, so it's get things a little bit more complicated. So after we plug in all the information, we know this 4 mean quarterly, this 14 mean 14 years. So they're solving for R, so we want to simplify the side with R, okay? So first thing, we will divide both sides with 500, get to this. And then I need to get rid of the 56 power, so both sides take the 56 root. Once we have that, I'm solving for R, so I'm moving the 1, subtracting 1. Once I get that, I need to get rid of the divided by 4, so the opposite would be multiplied by 4. So at this point, you need to be able to plug it to the calculator. Are you able to do that? So it's a 56 root here. So do you know how to do that?
Yes.
You sound so sure. You sure you know how to do it? Okay, let me see if I can rebase this thing. Okay, all right. No. Okay, so when I turn it on, let me quit this. This is I need to do in the parenthesis first, right? So I need a 56 root, so it's going to go to math. And then number 5 is going to be the roots that I can put in the 56 as my index number. And inside, I can put in 2.6. I hit enter. I subtract my 1. And I multiply by 4. So this is a really long decimal number, but this is interest rate, so I need to turn it into percentage. So they say 6.88% something, right? But we want to make sure we will have enough money to make whatever they want there. So we round it up a little bit, either 7% or 6.9%, just to make sure like you will make the target goal of how much money you will have, okay? That's what your book suggested. Okay, that's 17. Number 18 is actually very easy. All you need to know is ln e equal to 1. So they look like they cancel each other, but actually ln e equal to 1. So if you have that, then this guy is gone. It's just equal to 1/2. All right, and then number 19, your book says something like use the natural log method. I don't know why, but it's attached to calculator. So basically you have a weird base. It's not 10, it's not e. So in order to solve that, they want you to put into the change of base formula, look like that. So basically the giant size number, not the value, okay, go to the top, and the little base go to the bottom, like this. You can either put log base 10, but your book like to put ln like that. So the formula is, if you don't have base 10 and you use calculator, you can change both of them, have ln as the log. The giant size number go to the top, the little base go to the bottom, put it in the calculator, and see how many decimal places they want you to round it to.
So that's not for the actual value of the number, it's just the format of the number, is that right?
What do you mean by that?
So for number 19, it says log 24. So if it
So
was
they
log
want
420, it would be the opposite.
Okay, so let's not use the same number. So say this is an extra number. If I do log 275, something like that. Okay, then it would be, I put ln on top, ln at the bottom, right? And then the giant size 75 is going to go here. The base is go to the bottom.
So the base is always on bottom?
Correct.
Okay.
So when I need to do it, I just need to, oops, oh, I'm running out of time. So it has 10 more minutes. If they cut me off, like maybe we try to start another meeting. Maybe we can finish it 10 minutes. Let's try. Okay. All right, so let's see. So getting nervous. 75, but make sure you be careful with the calculator. Close your log here, otherwise it's going to be wrong. Divided by ln of 2. Again, close this, otherwise it'll be wrong. Hit enter, so this would be 6.23 if I round it, 229, 3 decimal places. Is it okay? The base at the bottom.
Yes.
Got it? Okay, number 20. Number 20 is something you may have to study a little bit. It tells you some of the old information that we have learned before. Number 20 say they give you information, they want you to write a cost function. So cost function, remember, is variable cost plus fixed cost. So they gave you all this information. You can put it together as the cost function. And then they gave you the revenue function, but they want you to find the profit function. So you need to remember profit function is revenue subtract the cost. So you put it in there, make sure you put a parenthesis around your cost function because you need to distribute that negative inside. All right. So you combine like term, that's your profit function. And then they want to know the maximum profit. So this is a quadratic, which is a parabola with a negative. So it means it's going to be open down parabola with the set base parabola, right? So it will have a maximum value. That maximum value is the same as the vertex. So we need to find the vertex basically. The x part represent how many sandwiches? The y part represent the maximum profit. So because it's in the general form, so we use this formula, right? Negative b over 2a f of x. So we plug it in, we found out we need to sell 1,200 sandwiches. And once we found that, we use the number to plug in my profit function, right? To find my maximum profit. Are we okay? Here's number 20.
Yes.
Okay, so number 21, 22, and 23 is about the asymptote. So if they need to find vertical asymptote, which is the vertical line, so the answer has to be x equal to a number. Horizontal asymptote is a horizontal line, so it has to be y equal to a number, okay? So for vertical asymptote, basically you just set the denominator equal to 0. So I set denominator equal to 0, so x equal to 0. X minus 6 equal to 0, so x equal to 6. So those two are my vertical asymptote. Make sure you write down x equal to, okay? Horizontal asymptote, we use the highest power rule. So I need them to match. So the first one, bottom is square. The top doesn't have square. So I force a term here, put a 0 here. So it means y equal to 0 over 5, which is y equal to 0 is my horizontal asymptote. And the next one, they match x squared. So I just pick up the leading coefficient. So y equal to 14 divided by 7. So it's y equal to 2 as my horizontal asymptote. Okay? You may have to study a little bit. Questions? Vertical asymptote set denominator equal to 0. Horizontal asymptote, the highest power rule. So you pick up the leading coefficient top and bottom, set it equal to y. Okay,
Gotcha.
number 24 and 25 is solving logged. So the first one is just changing log to exponential. So the base is 2. My exponent is 2. I didn't like that question because 2 and 2 here. So make sure this is your base. So base, this is your exponent equal to your answer. And then you just solve for x. And then number 25 is a little bit more complex. So number 25, you will have to first write it as a single log. So again, addition turn into multiplications. And you multiply this part out. And then when you stuck in the log form, then you change to exponential form. Once you get that, this is a quadratic. So set it equal to 0. Once you set it equal to 0, you want to factor it. The main thing is that base of log and answer of log need to be greater than 0. So once you found your answer, you look back here. If you put a -1 here, it will make the answer of log equal to negative. So we throw this answer away. If you put a 5 here, this is okay. If you put a 5 here, it's still positive. So we keep one of this.
So just because x equals -1 doesn't automatically mean you exclude
No.
it. You have to plug it into the
you have
equation.
to plug it in. So if this is like,
Okay.
I don't know, if it's like 1 minus x, if it's 1 minus x, you put a 5 there, it would be a negative. So if it's 1 minus x instead of x minus 1, then I need to throw out the 5 instead of the -1.
So the negative might be fine so long as the formula
Correct.
works out. Okay.
If you plug it back in, make this part negative, that's no
Gotcha.
okay. All right. Okay, that's 25. We have a few more minutes. Okay, 26. Number 26, you're using the compound interest formula. This time they need to find the time to double your money. So if you started with 1,700, you need to find out what the double value is to plug it in over here. This time they're solving for t, so we want to make this side simple. So divide 1,700 both sides, because this side need to be as simple as possible. So you got this. I'm solving for t. The problem is t is in the exponents. In order to solve something in the exponents, either make both sides with the same base, which I can't, or waste both sides with ln or logs. Your book like to do ln, so we put ln on both sides. Once you have ln, you can apply that property to bring down the exponents. So we got that. And the only thing I need to leave here is t. So I went ahead and divide everything else. So I want t to stay on this side, so I divide 12. I divide ln of this big chunk of stuff. So put it on this side and put it in the calculator. Just make sure you plug it into the calculator carefully. If you want to do one big step, make sure you put a parenthesis around here when you plug into the calculator. Otherwise, you may get it wrong. So practice it at home. Make sure you know how to use your calculator. So it's 9.93 years, something like that, to double the money. Very last questions. Number 27 is an exponential function. So it looked kind of like the continuous compounding formula. The perked one, this is the original amount. This is the E. This is the rate, and this is time. But for the exponential function like that, the time may not be years. So this question say the time is how many days. So first question say how many initial amounts they have, which is this number, 700 insects. What is the growth rate? The rate is this number, right? So you change that number back to percentage. So 3% is the growth rate. The last one is a little bit more complex. The last one say, when will it go from 700 to 980? So this is your P of t. Plug it in here. You need to solve for t. So again, you're solving for something in the exponent, right? So you're going to need to raise both sides ln at some point. But because we're solving for t, so this right-hand side need to be simplified, right? And 700 multiplied to that, so divide both sides with 700. This is a nice number. We can use that. And then I think we're ready to raise both sides with ln to bring down the exponents. So get down here. And don't forget ln e equal to 1, right? So ln e is gone. I need to solve for 0.03t equal to that. So divide both sides with 0.03. And you found out the time is 11.22 days to grow the population to 980 infants, okay? So that's kind of like a quick rundown for you, but I send you the file with the solution and the questions. Make sure you practice it. I know time is really tight. Try to do as much homework as you can, and then try to do the quizzes and practice with this. And then on Thursday, we're going to have the exam. So the exam will be shorter than that, maybe about 20 questions I'm planning. Okay? Apparently, I have less than 1 minute. So if you have a question, quickly ask me.
Did we have any other assignments after this quiz due once we finish the exam?
We may have a practice final exam, but that's all.
Okay.
That should be it. All right. If no question, I may get cut off anytime. Okay. I will send this video to everybody. So if you want to watch it again, you can. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Try your best. I know it's hard, but like it's hard for me too. I didn't sleep at all yesterday to finish this. So do your best.
Same.
I will see you guys on Thursday. Take care.
Have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye.